Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Layton Fulton, a hypnotherapist, and he helps his clients through transformative healing. We learn from him how hypnotherapy and sound can help reprogram limiting beliefs, enhance clarity, and unlock hidden potential. Welcome to the show, Layton.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Layton. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about how one can unlock the power of their mind. In this backdrop, we'll have our conversation. But before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, Layton, so that audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure. Thank you very much for that intro. I come from actually a construction background. I worked in oil and gas, the industry for about 30 years, building high performance teams, working with tradesmen, working with training managers, and also trading team leaders. And I just exited that here in the last couple of years and had been working with LifeCraft therapy and helping individuals access, their capabilities, and limiting beliefs that you had mentioned in the beginning there are something that really hold people that can be leaders, people that are natural leaders. They question themselves. There's imposter syndrome, and there's individuals that think, oh, maybe I'm not worthy, or I don't know if I deserve that promotion, or I don't deserve this. And those are repetitive behaviors that the unconscious mind that can, form an error when you're young or during trauma or anything like that. And it can hold back individuals from really accessing their full potential. So I was extremely interested when I hooked up with LifeCraft therapy, even when I was still working in construction, and I was utilizing it for helping men learn how to lead and women how to step into their full power and how to access, some of their leadership skills and really find where they're aligned with internally and help them in work. And I found that, people were doing better in their personal life, then it was spilling over into their work life. So then I started specializing in just helping people access this just in their personal life. And then by default, work, personal relationships, and everything all just seemed to click into place.
Absolutely. So from oil and gas to hypnotherapy, what led to this whole transformation of yourself? And also for the clarity for the audience, you are a hypnotherapist, you help in transformative healing. Wherever healing comes, people think about a doctor. In terms of, just for clarity, I hope, are you a doctor? You are not a doctor? What sort of a certification you have got in what you do?
Okay, that's a great question. I am certified just through LifeCraft Therapy, which is a clinic that has been operating here in Canada for 11 years. And I have been working with them for the last 2.5 years. And it took me 2 years to get my certification through them. So no, I am not a doctor. I am just a certified LifeCraft therapist through this particular clinic in hypnotherapy. And amongst that, we work with some engineered sound and some other courses that we take through that. But there's no doctor certification involved in that, no.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Layton. Now, about your own transition from oil and gas to this particular thing that you are doing right now. Help us with that story so that people can understand how it happened, why it happened, and how did you do it? Are you happy, much more happier than earlier on?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question. It is quite a bit of a swap. You'll go from hands-on. I grew up on a farm and then started working construction and in the trades and became a team leader in the trades and a mentor and a journeyman. And then, then you end up having teams below you and apprentices and such. And I really liked working with people. And I have a couple of kids. They're growing up. They're in their 20s now. I expect to be a grandfather here in the next couple of years. And I mention that because when my kids grew up, left the house and turned out to be an empty nester, I was no longer getting the kids to dance class, getting them to jiu-jitsu, wasn't helping my son fix his car anymore, and helping the kids figure out the bus schedule to get to work and get to secondary education and such. When I wasn't doing that, now that I wasn't doing that with them full time, I kind of got down this road of who am I? and what am I interested in? And, my hobbies and such had taken a back seat for so many years. You're being a father and being a parent. I got back into reading, got back into fitness, and started really putting myself back into my work and putting into my teams at work, and found that I was very, very interested in human consciousness and just kind of the human condition. And I swayed that direction and started taking this certification with my my now girlfriend. We took this together for self-improvement and also for something that we could do together and grow as a person. I believe in continued education, regardless of your age and your certification. There's always something to learn. So we started down this path, learning together, and it just turned into something that I took a directorship at the clinic that I work now, and it was becoming something that I wanted to leave my day job, I guess you could call it, and start doing this full time. So I retired at New Year's of this year here a couple of months ago, and I'm taking the directorship seriously in a full-time position, a full-time capacity now, and working with people. So I guess that's kind of my oddball story, that I just became more interested in encouraging humans to be the best version of themselves than I did doing the actual work for the clients. So I retired, and here I am.
Absolutely, absolutely, Layton. Now, let's understand exactly what you do. You talk about the patterns of the unconscious mind. What do you mean by that? How should I understand that my unconscious mind has patterns, conscious mind has no pattern? Help us understand. Such a difficult, so many things to understand for a common person like me.
There certainly is. And that is the perfect question to start with. The unconscious mind, commonly referred to as your mammalian brain or the reptilian brain, is it makes your decisions. There's your conscious mind, which is your day-to-day mind that decides whether or not you want to get fuel at this gas station or at the next gas station, or if you're going to stop and get a coffee, you're going to get a latte. That's your walk around water cooler conversation type mind. That's just your day-to-day interaction. And your unconscious mind, that's your reptilian brain. That is it wants to keep you safe. Its only job is to keep you safe. So it would be the brain that would make the decision. If you had a saber-toothed tiger, for instance, with a very, very far back fight or flight, if you're being chased by a tiger, it makes a decision. Do you lay down and take this, or do you run and going for survival? So it continues forming decisions for the entirety of your life, from the time that you come onto this planet and are a human being. And it forms beliefs. If there's something that is happening to you when you are young, it can form a belief that this is not safe for me. I will never let this happen again. Therefore, this is not safe. So it will repeat that pattern for the rest of your life. Or also, if you're in a traumatic event, a car accident, an incident with a large farm animal, or anything like that, if you get bucked off a horse or anything, it can form that this is not safe. I will not allow this to happen again. So some of those repetitive behaviors, as you go on throughout your life, don't keep you safe anymore. This mammalian brain is not that smart. It's very, basic. And so it can form decisions and these types of things in error. So once you get to a stage of your life, say you're 40 and you're still doing this repetitive, a repetitive behavior, or even an addiction such as smoking or alcohol addiction or anything like that, there's normally something behind that your unconscious mind is driving you to repeat this pattern, because it wants to keep you safe, and safety is in familiarity, and familiarity might not always be what's best for your physical or your mental health. So there are certain tools in hypnotherapy that we get this day-to-day walk around conscious mind out of the way with just neuro-linguistic programming, some basic techniques, body mirroring, and so on and so forth, a general understanding of the vagus nerve and polyvagal theory. And you can get that conscious mind out of the way and then bring the unconscious mind forward, showing it a scene or showing it this repetitive pattern and speaking to it directly and saying, no, this pattern did keep us safe. It did keep us alive. It kept us on the earth. That's great. But we are going to reframe this and release it. And then it's your unconscious mind and it's yours to give ideas to. So then we can imprint a new belief that we are safe. We no longer need this particular pattern, and we're going to release it and then install a pattern that does serve us to be the best version of ourselves now.
Absolutely, Layton. So who follows whom? The conscious mind follows the unconscious mind, or the unconscious mind follows the conscious mind? in creating those patterns?
Well, the conscious mind, again, is the day-to-day walk-around mind, and we think that it makes all the decisions. When we're saying, yeah, you know what, I am going to have a second plate of lasagna, or I am going to have a beer on Friday night, or I'm going to drive here or drive there. We think that we're making those decisions, but deep down, 99% of our decisions are made with our unconscious mind based on the patterns of development.
Absolutely.
Does that
So
answer does that answer the question?
yes, it does. It does. I'm just trying to understand it from a very common person's perspective so that he or she can understand it. Now, how do I uh, tinker with or recalibrate my unconscious mind when it has become a pattern in itself? Do I have that capacity? Where does hypnotherapy comes in? What does hypnotherapy do? How do you help your clients? Help us understand exactly how you do it.
Yeah, beautiful question. We, I guess, start with the basics of hypnosis. I can't personally hypnotize anyone. That's not a thing. What I can do is utilize tools that are not new, neurolinguistic programming or anything like that, and any of the techniques that I spoke of before aren't new. These have been around since the days of Aldous Huxley and individuals like that. So what we do is use some breath and some body mirroring and reading body language, and allow people to come into a meditative, very, very relaxed state. And when you can use word patterns and anything of those other tools to get that conscious mind slightly confused and it's not sure what's happening, again, the unconscious mind comes forward and says, okay, I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm going to take over and I'm going to make the decisions. And when we get to that point in time, when you can tell that an individual is very susceptible to having imprinting, when we get to that point in time, we just have a conversation with the unconscious mind, for lack of a better term, and ask it, what are you trying to show us here? Bring forward a scene, a feeling, an emotion that you are wanting to show this individual, and then we'll invite that individual to explore whether it could be a pressure in the heart, or it could be an overwhelming feeling of grief or guilt or anything like that, and say, what are you trying to show this individual? And then they can have a kind of a, for lack of a better term, a conversation with their unconscious mind, have this feeling out, and then we can help them reframe by bringing their attention into it and saying, this feeling or this emotion was keeping you safe. Again, we're going to release it. And we could even imprint an anchor, something as simple as, anytime you pinch the webbing of your hand or put your hand on your heart, you are going to be able to release this feeling and then make a decision based on what's best for you now, not what was best for you 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or when you were a child, when something was formed in trauma. Or, people talk about trauma, but trauma isn't always something, not to speak lightly of it, but it's not always something horrible that happened to a person as a child. It could, again, be like I talked before, could be an incident on a motorcycle or a car wreck, or even a parent that was young and unsure how to, show love properly. And then maybe that person didn't bond properly to something and just isn't understanding it. So it can be a wide variety of things.
Absolutely. You talk about, sound and frequency. How do you use this in this particular field of, reprogramming one's mind?
Yeah, it's actually become an invaluable tool. We studied extensively on it. We utilize a wave path therapy that was brought together by some neuroscientists that work for the Imperial College of London, a fellow by the name is Mendel, that we work with. And they isolate certain tones and frequencies, vibrational frequencies, and we can use it to put a person in a state of relaxation. And these frequencies and vibrations, we use actually big external speakers and stereo headphones, whichever works out best for whether we're in the clinic or whether we're in a large studio environment or not. And for people that aren't really sure where to start, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. For people who aren't sure where to start, say they haven't meditated before, they're not very susceptible to suggestion. They have, maybe some people like to say, ADHD, and they have a hard time staying, on point, so that we can help them get into a state of hypnosis or into a state of meditation. We can simply utilize some light breathing techniques and an eye mask, and allow them to sit in a typical therapeutic chair or in a comfortable environment, and take away the visual of that they're experiencing, and just have the vibration. So a big left speaker and a big right speaker, and just like the energy that goes around, for instance, in water. When you drop a rock in water, the waves move out from that point. And to simplify it, the water is not moving. The water is showing us that the waves are there. If there's a leaf floating, that wave, that leaf doesn't float out. It just goes up and down, and it shows us that those waves are there. So I mentioned that because we utilize the sound from the speakers and the waves from the speakers to go through the human body. And the human body is made, as we know, of water. So as those frequencies that we can change the frequency, the height of the wave, and the intensity of it. So we can utilize that to go through the body and kind of break up emotions or anything if people don't know where to start with that. We can liken it to if a bird or a small animal or even a larger animal is chased by a predator. It's been very often that you can see if a rabbit gets into a briar patch after being chased, they literally shake it off. You can see an animal, they'll shake it off and they'll vibrate, or a bird for that matter in a tree. So that's them releasing that. But humans, for some reason, we like to hold on to that negative vibration, if you will, or that trauma. And people talk about putting it in a jar and pushing it down and keeping it in there. So individuals who don't know where to start with this type of therapy, will offer sound. And when that sound will just literally, for lack of a better term, just kind of shake things loose, bring forward emotions, and bring forward anything that maybe, we can invite these individuals to surrender into and get curious and say, why are you experiencing this emotion? What is it trying to show you? And that's kind of our starting point.
Absolutely. So, Layton, how do I know whether I have got limiting beliefs? If my life is going on well, because I'm not having any trouble, how do I know as an individual, as a business person, whether I've got limiting beliefs? Will someone else decide, or I will just come to know, okay, I need to go to Layton and get this hypnotherapy done? How does that work?
Yeah, the majority of the individuals come to us really with, as I had just spoke of, not really knowing where to start. A large majority of people come and they're like, I'm not really sure why I'm here. I'm not sure. My life is good. We have a multitude. Myself, for instance, when I found this path, if we could double back to me for a second, I was, I was doing well in business. I have a really good friend group. I have an unbelievable relationship with my family. I am surrounded by these amazing people, and have the typical, I've got a good job with good benefits and so on and so forth. I came to this with the question of, what could I possibly be looking for? How is it possible to look for more when I feel like I have everything that I could possibly, honestly look for? And it just seems organically and through word of mouth, people find us that, or they're looking for self-improvement or self-exploration is a big one that people come to us with. And they're just like, I feel like there's more out there. And it feels like you guys are very interested in holding space for individuals like us and allowing us to experience it or explore it. So that, and we also work with individuals with addictions as well, getting over addictions, to get over whether it's smoking or something heavier than that, something of a medication or something that somebody wants to get over. When an individual goes and gets off of any type of a chemical substance or alcohol or anything, when they're physically healed from it, and which it does take quite a while. It's smoking, for instance, but once the physical dependency is gone in that individual, they can come out of a dry out center, or they can come out of something, and for some reason, psychologically, they still go back to that repeatable habit. And that's that unconscious mind wanting safety, and safety is in familiarity. So they go back to it. And so individuals, whether it's procrastination or something to do with anxiety, that's kind of when they know to come see individuals like ourselves. They're like, I feel like I'm getting over it, and then I'm back in this again. And then I feel like I've dealt with it, and I'm back in it again.
Absolutely. And my last question to you, Layton, is that what should people expect when they come to you And what should they think in terms of success rate? How do you rate your own success rate about such things?
People should expect, I guess, the nuts and bolts of that is especially when it comes to the addiction and when it comes to self-improvement, it's a little easier because when people come to us, they have to want to do it. It's one of those types of deals, I can't hypnotize someone to steal a car. If I can't hypnotize somebody to do something that they don't want to do, so that they come with the expectation of I want to quit smoking because my wife doesn't like it, chances are that the success rate is not going to be very well because they're not doing it for themselves. If they come and say, I'm sick of this, I don't want to repeat this pattern anymore, whether it's an anxiety driven pattern or something to do with procrastination or something that they honestly want to deal with and release, our success rate is up in that 90-95% rate. If an individual honestly wants to do something for themselves, then we're here to utilize it and show you where you can access the power to do it for yourself. And we utilize we utilize the sound while we're doing the hypnotherapy, and also customized hypno tracks that these individuals can go home and listen to for 21 days or for however long they like to. But in that 19-21 day for most individuals, they can listen to it. There's custom recording. Some of the we actually clip it from the session, and then they're allowed to listen to it either when they're meditating or when they're in that state of openness, right when they're falling asleep in that theta state. And also we allow them to access the tracks of the sounds that we engineer while they're also in the hypnotherapy. And that can trigger the unconscious mind to go back to that state where they were impressionable and then listen to the tracks. And that helps support our clients.
Absolutely. There's much to learn and understand about all these things from you, Layton. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about you, what you are doing, about your clinic. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is there is at lifecraft.ca is the name of the clinic in Cochrane, Alberta. And that has my booking links on it, has a full overview and videos of everything that we offer.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Matt, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate having your platform to speak on here.